speed. That's the rhythm. That's the rhythm. Oxford win. The race is on. Dig in now, boys. Dig in. Bye-bye, Cambridge. Yeah.
We train 7 months a year for this one day.
The crew that can hold it together mentally is the crew that will win.
Yeah, this is for real.
In the Oxford Bow, the roots of the race, a genuine English undergraduate, Robin Edgman-Frey. He is the youngest, now the lightest man in the race. It is Colin Smith. The 3-seat, and Tom Parker makes it 3 Brits in a row for Oxford. And now 2 Americans, the engagingly jovial Paul Daniels, current world champion, and the most powerful man on either side, Jamie Schroeder, a simply awesome specimen. 2 Canadians, the passionate president Barney Williams, what a competitive example he sets. And then the oldest dark blue, Jake Wetzel, uncomplicated and very, very strong. The stroke is the man that they call Le Métronome, Bastien Rippel of France. And all of that is steered and cajoled by an English cox, Sebastian Pearce.
I think we're going to win.
Now, Cambridge, and their bowman, as last year, is the vocal American Luke Walton, a joker but serious today. Leader by nature and example, the president is Tasmanian medic Dr. Tom Edwards. And now the 3 Germans, oldest in the race, former world champion Dr. Sebastian Thormann. Then the motor, the monster, Torsten Engelmann, the heaviest man in either boat. Sebastian Schulte next. His coach describes him as the classic number 5, the engine room. Then Kieran West, MBE, Olympic champion, former president, 2 boat race wins behind him. And still 22, Tom James, the youngest light blue, yet it is his 3rd boat race, which leaves the Canadian specialist stroke, Kit McDaniel, a feeler of the rhythm, called again this year by the cox Peter Rudge, the 5th of these 9, back from 2005.
I think this year's crew is the strongest Cambridge crew ever.
10 Olympians, 15 with World Championship experience. Between them, almost nothing. Cambridge, 9 ounces a man heavier, 1 centimetre a man taller, just more than 1 year a man older. Genuinely, unreservedly, both crews believe they will win. One of them is about to be wrong. Sebastian Pearce still has his hand in the air. That means that he and the Oxford 8 are not ready. And the same can be said
Oxford ready.
Of Peter Rudge. Down goes the hand.
Ready. Attention, go!
And they are away. 4 miles and 374 yards off into the wind and the rain and the tide, defying nature now for around about 600 strokes. A mercifully prompt getaway in 2006, and as ever, the early yards, the initial strokes of the utmost importance. You can't win the race this early, but you can go a fair way towards losing it. Cambridge felt that last year. Momentum, position, rhythm, all key right from the start. Tim Foster.
Oxford got a very, very good start there. A clean start by both crews, but it was Oxford who went off at 44 strokes a minute and have already got into a half-length lead. We expected Cambridge to have a good start. It's Oxford who take the early initiative.
And Wayne Plumman, this has to be Cambridge's part of the race.
Absolutely. Cambridge felt they had a very fast start. In training this morning, they had a fantastic start, and here it's Oxford that sees the advantage and already has put Cambridge on the back foot by about half a length.
The first couple of umpires' warnings were against Oxford, who have stolen the initiative here. Hell for leather, no compromise along the Fulham Reach, where the onus is very much on Cambridge on the Middlesex side, because once they reach the end of the Fulham Wall and Craven Cottage, the first of the bends will have unravelled.
Oxford, once again got warned by the umpire. They're trying to get ahead and squeeze Cambridge over, make the most of this reasonable water to start with, make the most of that fast start, but they've got about half a length of squeeze. They've had to move back over, and Cambridge are now holding them.
The only thing we are hearing, Wayne, in the early stages of the race from the umpire is the word Oxford.
Oxford trying to push Cambridge over, trying to squeeze them in front. They're trying to capitalize on the good start they've had and put them under more pressure by starting to edge them over, steering in front, putting them under more stress.
Get ready, Fred!
Seb Pearce exhorting the Oxford boat to find its rhythm, and they have settled into a rhythm now. And who are you finding the better to watch, boys?
At the moment, Oxford definitely have the advantage. They've been aggressive, they were punching out. Both crews are now looking to find that rhythm. I think Cambridge are edging back and are now starting to get the benefit of the inside of this bend. Was half a length, Cambridge I think now bringing it back to about a third of a length difference.
Past Craven Cottage, where an hour or two ago Cambridge won the varsity football match by 1-0. 2/3 of the first mile complete. Tradition dictates now that they're past the Fulham Wall. The race is valid. Blues are awarded, and now the competition for the stream really intensifies. The stream being the deepest point of the river, and therefore the point where the water is at its quickest. It is fundamental to the winning of the race to find that point, lay claim to it, keep it, and that requirement, gents, is generally the root cause of any clashes. So far they've been kept apart, Wayne.
So far there's plenty of distance between them. We don't have to worry about any controversy yet. What we're seeing right here is the start is not everything. Cambridge have found their rhythm, they're pulling back, and it's actually very, very close at this point.
The concern for Cambridge is that the first bend has favoured them, and their requirement now is likely to be that they should hold on all the way around the outside of the massive Surrey bend, just more than a mile gone. The milepost has been reached, or is just being reached now. It's nowhere near record time. Record to the milepost, 3 minutes 17. We didn't expect it to be an especially fast race, but it is clearly going to be a competitive one.
Yes, having said the good things about Cambridge, if I was in any boat at the moment, I'd choose the Oxford one. They're in a good position. We've had the Cambridge bend. That first Middlesex bend was in Cambridge's favour. The bend now for the next mile or the next 6-7 minutes will be in Oxford's favour. So they're going to have to go the shorter distance. Oxford are going to have to row around the outside and maybe in the rougher water.
Those luxury apartments, which is what Harrods has become now, providing the perfect vantage point from which to witness a key point, the turning point in the boat race. To begin with, it is a fairly gentle bend, but once they're through Hammersmith Bridge, it becomes a tellingly tight turn.
Absolutely. We saw the crews get very close there for a second. Fortunately, they've separated. We don't need a clash at this stage. What we see right now is some very flat water. In a couple of minutes, they're going to be right into the rough stuff, and that could make things more interesting.
Line and position approaching the bridge, absolutely key. And they are absolutely neck and neck, nothing between the bows. They say the right line is beneath the second lamppost from the left. That is what boat race folklore dictates. It's very hard to say, though, who is navigating the better now, Tim Foster.
I think both coxes have actually steered their boats very well. They're fighting well. I think Oxford are just pushing Cambridge that little bit wider, but the Cambridge cox is holding his line pretty well. What you can't do too much is be too aggressive, because as a cox, yes, you want to get the best line, but you have to let your crew row and settle down into a rhythm at this stage.
The next 3 minutes are absolutely crucial for Oxford. They've got to take full advantage of the bend in their favour. They've got to go foot to the floor to get ahead.
Now they are making the turn. They're turning potentially into new weather. Closest to the boats for us, James Cracknell. How's it feeling on the river, James?
It's livening up now as they've come through Hammersmith. As they come through Hammersmith, Oxford held their course very well and pushed Cambridge out of the stream. And it's just starting to chop up now. There's a lot of water flying about.
And you heard the mid-race surge of supportive noise, potentially to reinvigorate these 16 exhausted oarsmen through choppy waters.
I thought it was a very good move there by the Oxford cox. He held his line very well, pushed Cambridge over, and then called a push and made his crew that are already probably screaming with effort and energy to push that bit harder, make the most. Okay, it's getting rougher, it's not going to get any better. They're making the most of their move now. Maybe Oxford are trying to win this race in the next 2 minutes.
The course is turning, the conditions are turning for the worse. Look at the spray there, and look at the water hitting the Oxford cox here, Seb Pearce.
Hold there in the road. Kick them hard. Yeah! Now keep driving it on, boys. Drive it on.
And the requirement from Seb Pearce there to attack them while they're in the rough. Keep Cambridge in the nasty water and make it as smooth for themselves as possible in the Oxford boat. It's become less now a challenge of rhythm and rate and speed and grace, and more a rugged exercise in the simpler, rudimentary requirements, staying afloat, staying together, just moving.
It's starting to look very heavy in the Cambridge crew there. They may have taken on some water. Oxford overrating them by 2 beats, as you can see at the bottom of the screen.
Cambridge have spent most of the winter as most people's fancies. The favourites of the Riverside gossips have been Cambridge, but they didn't take into account the particular conditions that are flying into the face of these horsemen on the big day, and Oxford have reacted to those conditions with guts, and they have a length advantage and possibly more.
Let's not forget it is hard for Oxford as well. We can see from the pictures there that they're crashing through the waves too. They're not getting such an easy ride, they're just coping with it a bit better than the Cambridge crew. It's not easy, they've been going for over 10 minutes now, so lungs are screaming, legs are burning, they need to keep on control of that boat, of their oars, and keep going at this rate.
6 months of raw training now being barged and buffeted by one afternoon of raw Mother Nature. And Oxford have dealt with it better to this point. What, Wayne Pullman, is Cambridge's way back?
They have to absolutely dig in and give it everything in the next minute or two. Oxford have a clear advantage. If they can't close the gap now, Oxford will be able to smell the finish line and they'll be straight off home.
Past the Chiswick steps, and that is a nasty boat to be in. The Cambridge Cox, Peter Rudge, will have a view of Oxford and will have a view that they are still catchable. Cambridge haven't won it from behind at this stage since 1961. Oxford did it in 2002, again thrillingly in 2003.
It's starting to look a bit panicky in the Cambridge crew. You've got 5 men in that boat who lost last year, were absolutely determined not to lose it this year. There's people starting to look around, rhythm starting to break down. If they can't recover this soon, that's going to be over for them.
Perhaps 5 minutes more to go. 5 minutes at the end of a life-engulfing project to which they have devoted themselves since last September. 5 minutes remaining of an experience into which these boys have invested their lives, bodies and souls, for which they have made huge personal sacrifice in pursuit of grand personal glory. 5 minutes between all of that and all or nothing as we come up now to the key marker that is the bandstand on the Middlesex side. And what will that signify to those in the leading boat, Tim?
If you were in the Oxford boat at the moment, you'd be very happy to see that bandstand and the approach to Barnes Bridge, because you know you're in the best position, you can see your opposition, you're probably not feeling so bad. Yes, you're tired, but the smell of victory is there for you if you want it.
Cambridge will start to know that the race is probably lost for them. Only Pete Rudge can see the Oxford crew. Oxford are far enough ahead now that the Cambridge crew cannot even hear them, and they just have to believe that they can keep in the race.
Yes, I think we can talk about conditions, and yes, they have played a factor, but also we have to give credit to this Oxford crew, because yes, they made the best of those conditions, and as we heard Seb Pearce, the cock, saying, we're going to attack them in the rough stuff. A lot of crews would have been frightened of that rough water, but Oxford actually attacked in it and took advantage of it when it was there.
Yes, massive credit to this Oxford crew. We thought Cambridge had the faster start. Oxford put them under huge pressure in the first few minutes of the race, never let them get comfortable, and when the conditions were rough, it was Oxford that handled them better.
Now, simply pain. Endurance, fortitude, strength of spirit, that is all that remains for Cambridge. That is a view from somewhere close to Mortlake Brewery, across from the Surrey side to the Middlesex side. It is around about the 4 mile mark. 6 relentlessly tough months of their lives, 4 impossibly draining miles of the river, and now the unforgivingly black and white, all or nothing moments which establish whether it has been worth it. Pain or glory, win or lose, abiding memory or enduring nightmare. It is going to be Oxford, and these are horrid moments in the Cambridge boat.
I had the experience of being behind at this stage of my boat race, and it's horrible. You just don't want to be there. It feels so much worse because you're losing. If you're up, pain goes away.
These Oxford boys can smell the finish line now. They know they've done it. It will take a miracle for Cambridge to win the race. They can just smile and take the last few strokes to the line.
There had been talk of a sinking today. That hasn't come to pass. It has been a clean race through dirty water. Credit to both Coxes, both crews for that. On boat race day, there is winning and there is very little else. And the winners of the 2006 boat race are Oxford University. The pre-eminent colour beneath the slate grey sky of boat race day 2006 is dark blue. 18 minutes, 24 seconds. Oxford win for the 4th year in 5, for the 2nd year running, to move now to within 5 wins of a dispirited Cambridge in the age-old series. A special achievement from an almost entirely reconstructed crew.
Jamie,
How you doing?
in the American engine room of the Oxford boat, this boat race is easy. You could win it every year, couldn't you?
I'm coming back next year, so I'd sure like to do it again next year.
How was it? Difficult conditions out there?
Yeah, it was. We knew there was going to be kicking up the headwind right after Hammersmith Bridge, and we were just ready for it. We pushed through it, and that's where we broke them.
Seb Pearce, you got the call relatively late to cox the Oxford boat. Explain your race and how it went for you.
I mean, I was pretty surprised off the start that we were so far up, but you know, they had a good push round the first bend, and
Lucy's fast, baby! Lucy's fast!
Oh, Barney!
That was Barney Williams, the president.
Barney. And
very proud of you.
Yeah, and we, you know, they sort of drew back, and by Harrods they were slightly in front, but I kind of knew going around Hammersmith that we had the bend, and we were slightly over to Surrey, but we just pushed so hard around Hammersmith, and then we hit the rough water, and we were just awesome in the rough water. We just ploughed through it. It was wicked.
What was the secret of this crew coming so good at this particular time?
I think we've been, I mean, ever since I've been in it, I think we've been going well. I think we've been underestimated. You know, I put a lot of money on us to win because I thought we were going to win, and I think that was the way it was all along.
We talked a lot about the conditions and how rough it might be. How bad was it?
Yeah, it was pretty tricky. It wasn't as rough as it has been during the week. The headwind was really hard, though. You know, that last bend was really, really tough, and the guys did a great job.
You won the toss. How much of an advantage was that?
I don't know. I think if we'd had the start we had on Middlesex, we might have cleared them earlier. So, yeah.
Kieran, bitter moments for you and your crew.
Yeah, it's kind of upsetting, really. All credit to Oxford. I mean, you know, they won at the end of the day. They knew we had a fast start, and they went off like a rocket, which is what I'd have done in their situation. I think the fact that we pegged them back and we were going through them, even on their bend, you know, it gave us a lot of confidence. And I remember I was saying at that point to Tom in the 7th seat, you know, this is it, this is our day, buddy. You know, we were moving quicker than them, we were doing it with ease. And it's very unfortunate that conditions came into play. It's luck of the draw, you know, you get Surrey, you get Middlesex.
James, no doubt in his mind, it's all down to the conditions. He's blaming the conditions, but weren't they the same conditions that Oxford had?
They were. I mean, the thing is that Cambridge sat on the start and Oxford really put themselves into the position to win, gave them every chance. And yet, the conditions were rough. It obviously was slightly rough for Cambridge out in the middle, but they didn't have to be there. They had every chance with the advantage of the first bend to put the pressure on Oxford, and they didn't do it. So that's what they ended up with. And it's going to hurt like hell for months and months and months. You know, you train 7 months to get it right, and they didn't get it right. And you can sit around and blame the wind and blame the fact that you had slightly worse water, but everyone was fighting over that perfect line, and they had the chance to get it. So it's a bit weak, really. He's experienced enough to know that it wasn't that.
Barney, Mr. President, you won last year, but as president this year, and winning when you weren't favourites, how does it feel today to win?
Well, let's clarify this. Were we really not favourites? I mean, we did stack the odds so we could make some money on it. But other than that, we never, ever felt like underdogs. All we did was just train against the ghost of Cambridge. And when you train against a ghost, you've got to assume it's going to be so fast. So I think we were happy to be called underdogs. That was fit into our mentality. But we rode like favourites today.
Barney Williams has carried his all with distinction. And now he handles the trophy with dark blue ribbons, which indicates that the 2006 boat race has been won by Oxford.